So there's just lots of different early interventions. And you need to understand what it is you're looking for. Another reason I wrote the book, so a parent can read this book and say, this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a holistic, I'm looking for family involvement, I'm looking, I understand now why the focus on the fix can be so risky. Eli spoke to that, that's what his early speech therapy was, and he became very quiet, and that was very alarming. Early intervention is best. I talk about the narrative in the book. Narrative: help children overcome their speaking difficulties, help them learn to manage their stuttering, increase their speech fluency as appropriate, and learn to control their stutter. Okay? One of the major support organizations leads their parent page with a quote, "Our children are not broken and they do not need to be fixed." So what about helping children overcome speaking difficulties, helping them learn to manage their speech, increasing their speech fluency, learn to control their stutter, doesn't mean fixing. This is parents who are so desperate and so scared, they read this and they assume they're going to go to a speech therapist and the speech therapist is going to fix their child. And there's just not enough done to counter those assumptions. I remember the first time I heard this chant at a national conference, "Our children don't need to be fixed." After 6 years of on-again, off-again speech therapy, our son's diagnosis had gone from mild to moderate to severe. The message that our son was not broken and we should not try to fix him only left me feeling confused and dismissed. Now he spoke far less, and when he did speak, it was with far more struggle. Our child was now broken in ways we didn't know he could be broken, and God knows we needed to do something. Yeah, so your child isn't broken, but get him into therapy as quickly as possible so we can fix him. It's just so confusing. It doesn't make sense, the narrative. Yes, and it's not helpful for parents. Ask the right questions. Oh, I love this one. What is your approach to stuttering? Now, you're a parent, you know nothing. I do stuttering modification, fluency shaping, and holistic therapy. What does that mean to you? Nothing. You go, oh, well, that sounds good. Okay, let's sign them up. These are not questions that parents can answer. Is your chosen approach a good match for the child's personality? God, I don't have a degree in child development. How am I supposed to know? The speech therapists are usually very kind, very wonderful, and they have great toys. Is it age appropriate? Parents can't answer these questions. And I heard that a lot from parents. Linda and John, parents to 41-year-old Courtney, said, sadly, when you're parenting, you don't know what you don't know. So you reach out to try to get information. You throw a dart in the dark and hope that dart that you're picking is the one most appropriate for the issue. You have no context to provide some degree of assessment. So to say to a parent, go ask these questions, I'd be like, well, I must be really stupid because, I can't assess this. I don't know. Well, I guess I'm supposed to know it. I'm supposed to be able to give it, it doesn't make sense. So one thing I realized as I was interviewing, I felt that there was a gap somewhere. There's just something's missing between this narrative and the reality of what people are experiencing. And I found this, and I thought it was kind of interesting, so bear with me. This is social psychologist Roderick M. Kramer. What's going on here? Why, we do it all the time. We always take our kids to doctors, we take them to teachers, we take them to, we often rely on trusted third parties to verify the character or reliability of other people. An important element of swift trust is the presence of clear and compelling roles. Deep trust in a role, we found, can be a substitute for personal experience with an individual. Role-based trust is trust in a system that selects and trains the individuals. And that's what we do. We trust the systems. When we get this information, it doesn't make any sense to us, we move ahead anyway, because we trust the systems. Well, the systems aren't always getting it right. I wrote this book so it isn't going to be about luck anymore. Right now, there literally was not one parent who said, the parents who accessed speech therapy that I would say I feel is safer and more productive, they lucked into it. They didn't go looking for it. And I want parents to be able to articulate what it is we're looking for, and not, just not to go in blindly. It can't be about luck. It cannot be about luck. It's too damaging. A lot of speech therapists will say, well, parents come and they want, so desperately want us to fix their child. Parents can learn too, they can shift and they can understand what the risks are once it's explained to them. Like she said, it didn't take long. And the fact, his fluency, kids, adults, they can usually use the speech tools and techniques within the clinic setting. And that, again, is another theme that's repeated over and over and over and over again. And this is not news. This is not news. But I think what's news is to understand the impact that has on a kid's life. When they go out, they feel they failed everybody. They should be able to do this. My parents think I'm being lazy. My parents tell me, I should be trying harder. I mean, this goes on and on and on. Oh, and then one other thing I just want to say, between maybe 70 to 90% of kids who start to stutter will see that behavior subside. And at this point, they have very vague ideas of who those kids might be and who they might not be. So when you spend a child's first, 5, 6, 7 years engaging them in the type of intervention that says you're not talking right, you need to get this right. I'm sorry, the 70 to 90% are with or without therapy. So therapy isn't doing a whole lot for those young kids. They're recovering either on their own or not. It may be in some cases therapy help, but we have no way of knowing that. So we have to step back and say, what do we want to do with this 20% who's going to continue to struggle? Are we going to work on them for the first half of their lives to make them stop doing that? Bottom line is the narrative, I think, needs to change. It needs to counter this idea that you need to get your kids to us as quickly as possible, so they can be fixed. I don't think that's necessarily what they intend to say, but it's what a desperate parent interprets it as. And not enough is done to counter that message in general. So that's why I wrote the book. I hope it's going to make a difference. I hope parents are going to find it very useful. I hope speech therapists are going to find it useful to be able to go into the experience. When I say to you, lid comb, you can read what that experience is like. Or when I say holistic therapy, you can get examples of what that looked like in these people's lives, rather than it just being a fancy word that people can throw out, So anyway, that's my book launch. Oh.